pissed off about your car,
Of course. Yeah. And you're hurting
you
and you're
heard it,
upset and you're
right?
worried about what the future's going to hold. You're hoping that you're
Exactly.
going to be able to keep your job. You're
Hmm.
worried about,
Getting the
maybe you got a paycheck
kids to
coming.
work, so,
Yeah. And you, and you
kids to
can't
school,
do,
So yeah, man, yes,
and you can't do the stuff that you normally do for the kids because you're
right.
hurt. And I haven't heard about this in a while, but there was one adjuster here in Richmond who would show up at the house with the checkbook. And if you
Wow.
sign that piece of paper the next day, they'll give you something for every case. If you call
Yeah,
them up, they'll settle your case for 25
yeah.
bucks
I have
because they
seen.
just want to be rid of you.
Yeah, yeah. I have seen them like literally like give out checks like it's candy for like for a little bit of nothing.
And the
When
problem is if
yeah.
a problem comes up 3 months later, you signed a piece of paper for taking that
Mhm.
check that says, I am never going to sue again. This is 100% exhausting my case.
Right.
I'm done in return for this amount of money. And then you're just stuck.
Yeah. So like so doubling back here and switching gears a little bit again here. So with workers comp here, something that like probably a lot of the audience out there that is really kind of confused on, and is really Zoom. Like people working from home now. So like, so what happens with that now? So like.
Your guess might be as good as mine. I
So
don't
that's
know.
a weird
Yeah.
thing. So what if you're working from home and you get hurt
And
at home?
and your home is now your workplace.
Yeah, your home is
But
not your workplace.
I think that what's going to happen is you're going to have to go with your homeowner's insurance because
Mm.
in Virginia, a workers' compensation claim is typically a sudden mechanical or structural image injury that is arising out of and in the course of your employment. So if you fall down the stairs, you're technically at work in your house, but
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen any of those claims brought yet in Virginia. And I don't think the insurance companies are going to voluntarily pay them. And I'm
Oh
not sure they're
yeah.
going to be covered. So if you're working from home, you need to make sure you've got renter's insurance or some sort of homeowner's insurance that's going to cover something like that. That's an excellent question and great insight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we're gonna start seeing these things pop up, and it's gonna be
I
some
think you're
wise
right.
guys that's really gonna try to push the envelope with it and say
I,
like,
I
no, I'm on work hours. I'm not, I'm not taking this out of my renter's insurance or homeowners.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
The other thing that you asked me earlier about the change in the law is with the legalization of marijuana here,
Mhm.
almost every single workers' compensation case, the first thing they do, they either send you to the hospital and they make sure they take a drug test, or they
Mm.
send you to a patient first and they take a drug test. And so if you fail that drug test, they in almost every case, they say, we're not paying you. That's our excuse to defend this case. You had drugs in your system. And now it's legal to have drugs in your system.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just stop there. They get a call from the workers' comp adjuster, and the adjuster says, "Look, you had drugs in your system, and we're denying your claim." But what they don't realize, and what the adjuster doesn't have to explain to you, is they have to prove that you were intoxicated at the time and that it played a role in the accident that caused your injury. And almost every case I've ever had this come up, all you have to do is get the coworkers or the supervisor, and the supervisor isn't going to say, yeah, I knew he was high and I let him
Mhm.
work anyway in this dangerous area. So if you can almost always defeat that claim, but I think that claim is going to come up more often now as people more than likely start using marijuana more often because it's now legal.
Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be a real tricky one. Yeah. Oh man.
It
So
is. And so
do
you
you
need to
think
get to somebody early who can make sure you've got those witnesses locked down.
do you think that's one of the like the opposing factors, for a lot of the naysayers who didn't want, recreational use being passed?
I think you're right. I think that there's always the worry that's been there since the beginning of time that it's a gateway drug, that it leads to other things. But I think
Right.
the science has shown that that's not true. That there are people who are
Right.
recreational marijuana users the same way there are people who have a glass of wine or have some beer or have some whiskey at the end of the day. So, but I think you're right that there is a worry. If I operated a factory or I was a workers' comp insurer, sure, I'd be worried that there's going to be people using this more often, but you have to rely on your employees. No good supervisor is going to see a guy who's clearly high and clearly slow and allow him to endanger his life and other people's life, even if he was stupid enough to show up to work. If you show up to work drunk or high, you're getting sent home. You're not going to be
Yeah.
allowed to work in a dangerous job. You're just not going to.
No, and and if it's happening, they're probably just desperate because I mean I can see how it might happen nowadays because like there's been a lot of people very slow to go back to work nowadays.
That's true.
And the work force, the work labor force is very low right now.
You're right.
So so people might just like, well, we gonna have to just pass for the day and let them stay here.